Well, I want before we jump to that, I want to discuss the houses were not doing well, whether it's because of promotion or because people didn't like the product. Jerry was then fired, asked to leave, told to no longer show up as booker.
He was asked to leave because he didn't want to. He didn't hotshot shows. He, boy, this sounds like history repeating itself, but you know, you had angles built up for a blow-off show, and people who just show up with their bags saying, "Hey, I want to work." Sorry, kid, I got nothing for you. My show's booked up. And Mickey wanting to book all this cheap garbage that would just walk in jeans and T-shirts and say that they're wrestlers. You know, it just got to the point where Jerry didn't want to do business with that and pissed Mickey off. So Mickey told him that, you know, hit the trail, kick rocks. And with that happening, you know, a lot of the other guys left, and it was just one of those situations where like.
You stuck around for
one show.
One show.
I told Mickey I would be at the next show, but Bobby Wilson took over as booker after that, and
no, I know you're trained for loyalty and things like that. Why would a guy who was pushed so hard and so fast by a guy like Jerry, who literally gave you his body, the way he was pushed out, did you not at any point go, I got to be loyal to Jerry or I got to keep my bookings? Because Jerry did a lot for you for that initial push, which I think was the foundation for your pushes elsewhere.
I had already made an obligation. I had already said before it was official that Jerry was leaving for Ultimate that I would be at the next show.
Okay.
So the way I was trained was you always finish out your obligations. You do business. If you have a belt, go drop the belt. Then you go. I talked to Jerry about it, and I said that from a professional standpoint, I kind of feel obligated to at least finish this last show. At the time, you know, I didn't have anywhere else. I wasn't booked anywhere else, so it was a spot to kind of work that show while I'm talking to the people at Ultimate, so that way I can go from working that show to walking in on the next Ultimate show. So that way there wasn't any gap at all from me being in the ring.
What did you do on that show? What was your match? Because you went from a hot angle with Jerry to semi-main eventing and main eventing. Man.
It was a circus. Bobby Wilson showed up. Eddie Pittman showed up, who was Chief Iron Claw. Looked up at me and said, I don't know what to do with you.
They didn't know what to do with a guy who was literally coming off of... Okay.
He was seriously like the second biggest guy in the locker room, size-wise. I already knew right then, I said, this is it.
And Cornbread was gone at that point because of an injury.
Cornbread was already gone.
Do you remember who left the locker room because of the Jerry firing?
Mays and Cruz, Vortex. That's...
Jester leave? Carlos? Did he leave?
Yeah, Carlos left, but that's just because he... It wasn't that he was booked anywhere else, he just refused to work for Bobby Wilson.
Okay.
Mikey Webb stayed. Basically, it was just like, if they were PWA guys, they left. Cyrus was getting a pretty big push over at Ultimate, so he didn't have any desire to come back.
Cyrus left.
Yeah, Cyrus. I think Cyrus was on his way out before that, though.
Right.
But that was basically the PWA guys that just said, screw it. We don't, if Jerry's not going to book the angles, we know we're not going to be taken care of as far as,
And a perfect example of that is, we don't know what to do with you.
Yeah. I show up, looking to do business, and Eddie Pittman looks at me and says, son, I don't know what to do with you. Why am I here? Why did you...
Were you told to be there?
Yeah. Mickey asked me if I'd do the show, and I said, yeah. I said, I already told you I'd be there. So I was assuming that Mickey had it under control as far as, my matchmaking or whatnot, and so just to hear that, and just the fact that they didn't even know I was booked on the show until I was already in my gear waiting, to hear who I was working.
And you still weren't getting paid at this point?
It was... No, yeah, still wasn't getting paid.
So you didn't really expect any money at this point either?
No.
Okay.
And, yeah, so I'm sitting there in my gear, and then Eddie Pittman and Bobby Wilson were like, who are you? Really? At this point, I'm thinking, I've worked Dirty South now for about 8 months. And you're coming, they've even come and watched some of the shows because there's no mistaking any of these guys when they walk in. You're just going to say that you didn't see anything that we were doing at all?
Did you say that, or were you questioning?
Yeah, I was just kind of confused. I think the only thing I really said was, really?
Huh.
Well, at the time, Nate Crown was there because he was looking for some work too. They booked him on there. So I said, well, I trained with Nate. Why don't you just let Nate and I work a match? Okay. And Ethan spoke up because Ethan was there too.
And Ethan, I remember correctly, was also involved. Wasn't he had some part of the book?
Well, as soon as Bobby Wilson left, Ethan, which was after the next show, Ethan kind of snuck in and said, hey, let me book the shows.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, Ethan's got a good mind for the business, and I figured it was a smart move on Ethan's part. But I told him, I said, I kind of want to do something more local where I'm at. I said, so after I do this show, I've been talking to Ultimate, and everybody was cool about it. There was no bad blood. Ethan understands that, or Flex, excuse me, understood that if these guys are going to pay you,
right,
and you can work local,
there's no
go where you get the envelope. So that's what I did. And that's when I transitioned over to Ultimate and started working for them full time. Mm-hmm. Became a company guy for them.
Right. What other stories can you tell us as far as, before we get into the Ultimate, looking at what Ultimate had in a bigger city, it seemed to be being ran pretty well. What were you looking forward to going into that promotion?
Being with my friends.
Mm-hmm. The guys who were there, I think, were Jerry, Cyrus,
Justin,
and Maze. Nick wasn't there yet.
No, Nick.
Carlos wasn't there yet.
Neither one of them. I don't think you guys came until like 2 or 3 months after we had already started working there.
Mm-hmm.
Minotaur was there, which he had worked for Percy at some of his shows.
Oh yeah, so okay.
And we worked each other a few times too, so it was good to kind of.
What'd you learn from him as far as working big guy matches?
He's a stiff bastard.
Yeah.
But no, as far as working Minotaur, he taught me a lot about big guy stuff, how
right.
to look like a big guy in the ring, and just less is more when it comes to just being big.
Mm-hmm.
He's a super cool guy, and seriously, if there's any opportunity, if he's on the card and you have a chance to see him, he's seriously something to see.
Yeah, he's lost a ton of weight recently.
Yeah,
he looks good. He's doing a Brian Falcon.
Brian Falcon. He's going by his name now.
Yeah, so yeah, check him out if he's on a poster.